So this talk is on a topic I've been studying for about 7 years now, and I'll get into some of these slides, which I know for this TED-like style I'm not supposed to use, but it'll help you guys a lot. So the ad ecosystem is the engine that powers the internet that we all know and love. If you think about some of the websites that you use every day, some of the biggest companies, most innovative companies, Google, Facebook, Yahoo, they have a free service that's easy to use in any country, has the same user experience, they don't have to sign up for anything. You know, what makes all these websites work? It's ads. And the ad ecosystem is, it's big, it's a lot of ads out there. There's 120 billion spent, and that's 23% of all advertising is actually spent through internet ads. So this has gone beyond just a neat little banner ad that we saw in the 90s on websites. I mean, this is really a fundamental innovation that we're now seeing with mobile technology allowing us to get to the next level and all sorts of neat companies out there. But the punchline here is it's also really attractive, very, very attractive to bad guys. And one of the things that we noticed around this was why is it attractive? So it comes down to targeting, and ads have evolved to actually target you as the consumer. And bad guys sort of figured this out. So we're all here at this conference. You're probably staying at a hotel, or you drove from home. You might be using the internet right now at the conference. Well, when you're using the internet here, you're being targeted by ads. When you go home, you're being targeted by ads. Those advertisers know you were here, then you went home. Maybe you were at Cynet. So targeting has great characteristics of what I call the perfect weapon. Weapon delivery systems need targeting. And the ad ecosystem is delivering a targeting vehicle. So fundamentally, targeting breaks down into geolocation, IP address, your interests, the intent that you have to actually buy a product or a service. It's a very good representation of who you are. We also know that we can get to your name on a mobile device. We know your phone number. We have your EMEI, which represents the actual physical device in your pocket. So targeting is one of those things that has attracted us there. The other thing that's really interesting is the ability for these ads to scale. I can actually take an ad and scale it very broadly. So now I have something that's very targeted. I just want to get to one person. Or once I find my victim, I can actually scale that rapidly across thousands of websites or millions of people. That's actually really neat from a bad guy perspective. I like the idea of scale. It's hard to detect, because if I just want to get one user, there's no collateral damage. So I can infect one user, but it doesn't actually infect another user that's just 10 feet away. So put this into the context of traditional warfare. When I drop a bomb, typically it takes out lots of people, and that's unfortunate. We might want to just get one guy. Well, with ads, there's no collateral damage, which actually leads to the next point, which is because it's undetectable, it's not very noisy. As security professionals, we don't have methods to prevent this from getting us. So what I look at that as what I call the outside looking in problem versus the inside looking out problem. So we talked about targeting, talked about being undetectable, talked about limiting our collateral damage and scale. And the last point here is operating at a distance. So I could sit at home, I can develop my ad campaign, and I could deliver a payload without having to change anything in this ecosystem. The ecosystem provides all the tools I need. I don't have to use my brain very much. I just tie into this ecosystem. It gives me this tool where I can operate at a distance without actually being close to the people I want to target. Malvertising is a topic that came up a while ago. It was actually coined by a researcher at AOL called William Saluski, a good friend of mine and probably many other people here. And Saluski was looking at websites and noticing that some of the websites at AOL were actually infected with malware, which concerned him as the security guy at AOL. Why are our websites infected? Turned out it actually wasn't the websites that were infected. It was the ads that were infected on the site. But he coined this phrase, and really all it means is the ability to deliver a payload through an ad, and we call that malvertising. My story here goes back to, like I said, 7 years ago. I was developing a large-scale web crawling system, and the purpose of that system was to discover assets, help people see their organization from the attacker's perspective. And what I expected to see when I built this system was websites that were infected, and instead I started to see that it really wasn't a website. Websites are an anomaly. They're actually made up of hundreds of systems that make a website work. There's JavaScript, there's CDNs, there's all this technology. So I was really surprised to see that, and I was also really surprised to see that all of our crawlers were getting infected with malware from big websites. And that, just like Saluski, concerned me. Why is this happening? So we wanted to dig into that a little bit more deeper. So what was going on? It was more than just web pages. We were looking at the internet, looking at mobile applications. It wasn't just that one thing. It was actually made up of many things. So analytics and tracking systems, CDNs. And these are all great services, but they seem to have problems sometimes. JavaScript resources, social networking widgets, which is a major incident that happened with a social networking widget called Gigya with the Syrian Electronic Army recently. And of course, ads. And so our crawling technology was able to see from the attacker's perspective. And this is the important point of the talk. It actually changed my whole view on security at this exact moment. I've been in security for 18 years. And when I saw this, I said, hey, the incremental cost of attacking somebody is actually pretty low, because I don't have to take over the bank's website anymore. I can take over any one of these resources that they rely on, and I achieve my objective. And ads is the lowest barrier, because the ad ecosystem has fundamental flaws. And at that point, I considered being a bad guy, almost literally. I really thought, man, should I move to another country where I could get into this business? And people who know me would know that that was really a possibility. I thought, geez. So anyhow, this is the punchline here. You don't have to hack a site. I don't have to send out I don't have a botnet army. I don't have to send out all this email. I can get to the same people, and in a targeted way, through this system, through this ad system. So, we already talked about this: who you are, where you've been, information about your device. I mean, it's just fantastic data. So if any of you have seen an exploit kit that's used in the criminal underground, you'll notice that these exploit kits want to know what version your Windows PC is, and what phone version you have precisely. The reason they want to know this is that their payload only works on that device. Their technique to attack you only works on this device. Well, thankfully, to the ad ecosystem, it provides all that targeting information, reducing their cost, increasing the effectiveness, and reducing your ability to detect them, which is a bad thing. So the bad guys here, they really go to great lengths. Because this is so juicy to them, they go to great lengths to get into these ad networks. And this is all social engineering. What we've seen is they will create a fake company. They will infiltrate, in some cases, insiders. They'll bribe people. They'll use account takeover techniques. Through those accounts, they'll actually run ads, maybe in your own company's name. They'll really do whatever they can, because this is such a great way to get to their victims. And when I talk about global adversaries here, I'm not just talking about cyber criminals. We've got nation states. We have hacktivists. So we just saw the Syrian Electronic Army use one of these attacks just on Thanksgiving. And from a nation state point of view, just building a database of every target that I may want at some point in the future to deliver a payload to is a really cool technique and tool that you probably want to have. And tons of money is spent on satellites. We tap networks legally, in some cases illegally. Efforts are taken to do tracking. Well, the cost here is pretty low, and that's why the bad guys are going after this. So one of the things I learned here also is it's a very scalable system. So email, I send out 1 million emails, I get 1 million victims, potentially. I hack one ad, I get 1 million users. It's a very simple, scalable model, and there's very few attack vectors that operate like this that we deal with as security professionals. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the ecosystem and give you a view as to how you might build a defense around this. And the short answer here is it's complex, and there's many different ways bad people can get in to get to their victim. These are just code words for all the people in the ecosystem. The ad industry has evolved to get the best ad to the most relevant person for the most money. That is the game theory behind ads. It's very different than the game theory that we deal with when you build a secure system. Security is not part of this system. Email, when it was first built, did not have security. We fixed that as security guys. Ads have been around a long time. There is no security protocol whatsoever built into this. This is the ad supply chain. The only security involved here is the transfer of money and some vetting of, am I sending money to the right person? That's not really security. That's anti-fraud. So, to break this down, Tim Cook spoke at the President's Cybersecurity Summit at Stanford University and inspired me quite a bit. He said something that reminded me why this is so important. Ads are a product that actually drives, for a consumer, is the actual product. The product is not the website. And that actually tells you a lot right there. So we need a security system that can wrap around this. It is complex. There's lots of players. And when the product is you, and there's a lot of people fighting over this, there's barriers that put in place that prevent good security and good architecture to be built. And we need to think about what we can do to increase transparency and trust in this system. Those are the two things, and that's kind of what I want you to walk away with here is transparency and trust. We also think about kill chains. So, how does this actually happen? Well, the kill chain normally would be to prevent that ad from displaying. But the way the system is built, it's highly distributed. There's competition that's fierce over the ad. So if I don't trust you, but I trust this person, so they get the ad, there's multiple ways the bad guy can get in. And because we're all competing for eyeballs, and the advertisers will pay a lower price or a higher price, it gives the attacker multiple ways in. And ultimately, what you end up seeing here on the right, it's hard to detect because all you see is an ad. So this is actually a bad ad. There's the bad ad. Does it look bad to you? Looks fine to me. So behind the scenes, this computer is infected with a botnet. By simply rendering this page, that particular ad dropped a payload. It was a pretty effective campaign. So this is a community problem. Everyone's impacted by this. Everybody who's certainly in the ad industry is impacted. But beyond that, governments are impacted. Corporations are impacted. Consumers are impacted. And the web browser is the main thing that we use, or a mobile device, the main thing that we use. There's no trust and safety. There's no transparency and reputation engine out there in this ecosystem. So the challenge I have is how do we work together as a community to encourage such a vital part of the internet to adopt some standards that really can protect us all. And that goes to shared responsibility. I'm out there, I run an anti-malvertising working group. We also have a discovery product and an anti-malvertising product, so I think about this a lot. But the reality is, someone like me isn't going to be the only person to make this change happen. There's awareness on the issue, and it's also the corporate and government users and organizations whose networks are being infected with malware that have to step up and say, yeah, how are we going to be part of the solution? So I think it comes down to building trustworthy ecosystem. We've done this in other areas. Email has gotten much better, and so with that, thank you very much for listening to my talk on anti-malvertising.